Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at something pretty fascinating happening across the African continent. There's a quiet race to own the future of electric cars, and one company is making some seriously big moves. So we're asking the question, is the Chinese automaker BYD already winning the EV race in Africa? Let's find out.
So to really get this story, you have to start with a problem that millions of people are dealing with every single day. If you go to a city like Accra in Ghana, the roads are packed with gas and diesel cars. And, well, the cost to keep them on the road has just become a huge burden.
And I mean, just look at these numbers. It's pretty staggering. Back in 2020, a liter of fuel in Ghana would have cost you about 5.50 cedis. That's their local currency. Fast forward to today, and that price has more than doubled to over 12 cedis. That's not just a little price hike. It affects everything from your daily commute to the price of food at the market.
So naturally, when fuel costs are spinning out of control like that, you start looking around for other options. And this brings us right to the big question. Could electric vehicles, EVs, be the solution for drivers all across the continent? Well, some major companies are already betting big that the answer is a definite yes.
And that leads us to the first major player in this whole story, the Chinese EV giant BYD. It stands for Build Your Dreams. And believe me, they have a very clear blueprint for Africa.
So, if you haven't heard of BYD, you probably will soon. We're not talking about some niche company here. This is a global powerhouse. In the last year alone, they sold a mind-blowing 4.3 million electric and hybrid vehicles. Get this, they actually overtook Tesla to become the world's #1 EV seller.
And they're not just focused on Asia or Europe, no. They are systematically and very strategically building a presence across Africa. They're setting up shop and forging partnerships in places like Rwanda, Egypt, Mauritius, Zambia, and Kenya. And there are even more talks happening as we speak.
Their strategy is really smart. It's not just about selling a bunch of cars. For starters, they're kind of weaving themselves into the very fabric of the market. They're supplying components, like selling their advanced battery tech to local EV bike makers, like a company called Ampersand in Rwanda. It's a clever way to get their technology on the ground fast.
So at the same time they're supplying the parts, they're also pushing their own vehicles. They're making deals with local companies in Zambia to sell BYD cars, and they're partnering with groups like Go in Kenya to get their electric buses out on the streets. It's this really comprehensive bottom-up approach.
Okay, so with all of this action from BYD, it begs a really obvious question. If they're so busy on the continent, where's the world's most famous EV brand? Where's Tesla in all of this?
So, let's just quickly recap BYD's playbook. They are physically on the ground. They are making deals, setting up sales networks, and having serious investment talks with governments. They are building a real, tangible footprint.
And then, in stark contrast, you have Tesla. They have zero official manufacturing and no direct car sales operations anywhere in Africa. So any Tesla you might see driving around in Accra or another city, it's been privately imported by an individual. There's just no official corporate strategy happening. At least, not yet.
And you could see exactly what's at stake here. I mean, the market is still young, for sure, but it is growing fast. We're talking about an estimated 17,000 EVs in Ghana, 10,000 in Morocco, and almost 9,000 in South Africa. This is the new customer base that BYD is actively trying to win over, all while Tesla is still on the sidelines.
But, hold on. It's not all smooth sailing. There is a massive hurdle that every EV company, including BYD, has to figure out if they want to succeed in Africa. And that big hurdle is infrastructure.
Let's just take Ethiopia as an example. The ambition, the goal is huge. Get about 100,000 EVs on the road. But the reality on the ground? The entire country has, and you might want to sit down for this, about 10 public charging stations. 10. That's a pretty massive gap.
And this is not just an Ethiopia problem. Remember Ghana with its 17,000 EVs? The whole country has just 4 or 5 public charging stations. The simple fact is, without a huge investment in building out a charging network, widespread EV adoption just can't happen.
Okay, so we've seen the problem at the pump, we've met the key players, and we now understand the single biggest obstacle in their way. So let's pull all these threads together and figure out a verdict for this race.
Which, of course, brings us right back to our main question. Based on everything we've just looked at, is the Chinese automaker BYD already winning the EV competition on the continent?
Here's what the evidence seems to be telling us. First, yeah, BYD has a clear early mover advantage. They got there first. Second, their whole strategy of building local, on-the-ground partnerships seems to be the key for this market. Of course, that infrastructure problem is still the main roadblock for everybody. But finally, and this is a big one, as trade tensions with the US heat up, it could actually push BYD to double down even more on its Africa strategy.
And there's a quote from our source, the Labari Journal, that really puts a fine point on what this could all mean for the future. It says, as BYD scales up, it's likely that the prices will come down and be attractive to prospective buyers, especially in Africa. So you see, this isn't just about selling a few cars today, it's about setting themselves up to dominate the market tomorrow.
So, we'll end on this thought. The switch to electric vehicles in Africa is happening. It might be happening faster than a lot of people realize. So the real question isn't if it's going to happen, but who's going to be powering that massive transition? And when it's all said and done, as Africa goes electric, who's going to be behind the wheel?